Okay then, I promised it and here it is. Today we are talking about the London Spitfire. So, London have been starting to get a little active in this off-season in recent weeks, or the recent week. We had some confirmations of some stuff that we've been wondering for a little while. So, we know London are moving to a mixed roster, if not all Western. They have confirmed this. Nuki is their new GM. Nuki was the GM of British Hurricane. She is now the GM of British Hurricane and the London Spitfire. And alongside this, we have seen a bunch of people come in from Hurricane and the contenders regions. So, we saw Commander X come in. He was a coach at British Hurricane. He's a British coach. He's coming in. He's now assistant coach at London Spitfire. Reprise. He was at, actually, he's the only person on the current London lineup of coaching staff that has Overwatch League experience. He was at the LA Valiant in 2019 all the way through to 2020, early 2020 anyway. And then he went to own Revival. And now he went to Delta Phoenix. And now he's at London as a coach. He's head coach. But that left us with a few questions because, well, what about Fisher? Because not the Korean Fisher, the Danish Fisher, the DPS player. He is actually head coach at British Hurricane, and he has masterminded quite the run for this Hurricane team. Why was he not head coach of the London Spitfire if they're going to promote everything Hurricane? Well, we had that cleared up. Fisher was promoted to an assistant coach role at the London Spitfire after the end of the gauntlet. So that clears us up after some wondering about that. They also brought in Oak as their head of community. Oak is a member of Hangar 9. He was a very big influence in Hangar 9, which is the supporters thing for London Spitfire in the UK. So again, they're very much pandering to their home base at the moment, London Spitfire, and it's probably going to do them quite well. It's going to pay dividends, certainly in the short and long term if they continue like this. So I like the addition of Fisher. I really, really do. I think he needs to be in there because he's done such a great job with Hurricane. Him alongside Commander X, who are the Hurricanes, who have been the masterminds behind this Hurricane sort of journey. I think that's really good. It obviously leaves Hurricane with no coaches now, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Albion, the assistant coach for the Hurricane, he did leave, but didn't get promoted. He just left. So that's unfortunate, and maybe he will find another role at some point. Do remember that there is another ex-Hurricane coach in the Overwatch League. This is Unter, the Australian coach. He's with the Valiant now. So Hurricane have, again, a history of doing this. And they have a history of a talent moving up to the Overwatch League regardless. So, one thing to clear up about this roster first of all, Fuse is still on it. He is still on this roster, the Korean main support that we saw for London Spitfire last season. Played a lot of Mercy, and it looks like they may well be keeping him. To be honest, I'd be surprised if they weren't. I would have thought he would have been gone by now. With Glister, Sanguinar, Banar, J-Max, Sui, Krillin, Jihan, Hylie, Celestin, Babel, although they've all gone now, apart from Fuse. Now, Glister obviously found a home at the Shock. Banar found a home at the Hangzhou Spark. J-Max now head coach at Dark Mode NA and Contenders NA. Also, have a look at the Korean ladder, and Celestin, and although they are on that ladder, quite high up, so good job for them. Now, London did make a signing. They have made a signing, and this is an interesting one, let's put it that way. So, London were coming in with a significant issue with the British Hurricane roster. That issue? It's a 6-man roster. So, it's not going to meet Overwatch League rules. You need at least 7 people on a roster for it to meet the Overwatch League rules. So promoting Daneth, Sparker, Hattie, Molfig, Ripper and Kelix straight up, and just running with that, was never going to work because it was never going to meet what was needed. So they had to add some other parts. Now, Fuse could have been that part. It's not going to be just Fuse if Fuse ends up staying, because the other part is going to be Blase. So, Blase is an American DPS player. You probably heard of him from the Boston Uprising and the Houston Outlaws in most recent times. Now, Blase doesn't have the best of records, let's say. He is not seen as the best DPS player, and that's putting it lightly. He's got a good Genji, he's got a good Doomfist, but his hit scan, when we saw it at times, was not good at all. So he also has the ability to flex to off tank, which again, I'm not sure whether you want that or not. But Blasi's coming in as a flex DPS player for the London Spitfire. I was saying that this was going to be a bench player, but something happened, and now I'm wondering whether he is or not. I am very interested to see where London Spitfire go with this. One thing to say about Blase is that the rumours are that he has been incredible in tryouts. Absolutely incredible. And London were not the only team after him, with Vancouver Titans being one of the others that were going after him as well. So, Blase has had some good tryouts. Some very good tryouts by the sounds of it. And London have obviously been willing to outbid Vancouver Titans. Now, Vancouver Titans wouldn't have been bidding much, I wouldn't have thought, because Titans aren't really interested too much, but nor is Spitfire. So they were clearly winning. They clearly thought he was good enough to put a bet on, in some respects. So I'm willing to give Blase a chance. I don't want to see him on the hit scan. I want to see him on those projectile rolls. I want to see him on the Pharah, on the Doomfist, on the Genji. I want to see him do stuff like that. And I want to see him prove himself finally. Maybe on a mixed roster at London with good coaching, maybe he can do that. The coaching at British Hurricane was great, and it's now at London. So who knows what might happen. But it'll be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see. And there's a lot of question marks over this one. I'm not going to lie. Now, let's circle back to the point, as I said, when I heard the Blase announcement, I thought, yeah, he's a bench player. He's absolutely a bench player. He's one to expand the squad. I am not so sure anymore. And that's because a couple of days ago, we got the announcement from British Hurricane that Danid had left the British Hurricane. Now, you may think, well, he's just left to become a London Spitfire player. But why would he do that? Why would he be axed off the British Hurricane roster and then brought back into London Spitfire? I'm expecting a series of announcements. Now, Nuki has confirmed this, and London Spitfire have confirmed this. They said in their Happy New Year tweet, Happy New Year from all of us at London Spitfire. 2021 is a new dawn for us, and we are thrilled to have you with us. Our GM, Nuki, will have a sit rep along with our first announcement due Monday. So that is after this weekend. We are expecting the London Spitfire announcements to start coming in. And when that happens, I'm expecting to start seeing either different faces come in or the promotions for the British Hurricane to start. How London Spitfire do this, I don't know. They may do an entire announcement that promotes the entirety of the rest of the British Hurricane, or they might do it one by one. They've been teasing a lot during the end of 2020, and I don't think Danid is going to be a part of this London Spitfire. Now, it is interesting to see that, because Danid was the eligible one of the DPS duo of the British Hurricane. Sparker will not be eligible at the start of the Overwatch League 2021 because his birthday isn't until June and he's 17. So, Sparker will be made to wait. It does mean that London are going to be short some DPS players, so they're going to need to sign another DPS player. That is for sure, because they've just got Blase, even if they promote the British Hurricane roster. So, the reason I say Danid is probably not going to London now is because I'm expecting them just to do promotion tweets and promotion reveals. I'm not expecting them to axe the Hurricane roster and then bring them back into London. I think that's a very half-assed way of doing the announcement. I think they'll just say, congratulations to Ripper, who has been promoted from the British Hurricane to the London Spitfire. Because Nuki said this when she was made GM. She wants to bring British Hurricane and London Spitfire extremely close together. Closer than any Academy and Overwatch League team has been before. So, that's why I think they're going to do this in a sort of a congratulations, this guy has been promoted sort of way. Because this seems to be the long-term plan that the Spitfire want to go down. Who knows if that changes at some point. Cloud9 can be funny like that. But that's what I'm expecting. That's why I'm saying that Danid, I don't think, is going to be a London Spitfire player. Doesn't mean Danid might not be in the league. He might be in the league at a different team. Or he might be saying, look, I've won everything in Contenders. I'm happy in Contenders. I'm going to stay there. I don't want to make a commitment to the league. I don't want that contract. If he doesn't, then there's nothing London can do. However, he could have stayed at Hurricane. Now, I do still remain set on the fact that I expect Sparker, Haddy, Molfig, Ripper and Calyx to be promoted. The teasers have pointed that way. It will mean that once those guys are promoted, you are seeing a roster of Calyx, Ripper, Molfig, Haddy, Sparker and Blase, maybe Fuse as well. That would be sufficient, but I think we will see extra signings. I think I have been very hot on the hybrid train, who is a British DPS player who was part of Team Doge. He's been inactive since Team Doge became inactive because of the fact that their players were taking a part in a lot of tryouts for Overwatch League teams. Now, we've seen a lot of those players now branch out into new teams. For example, Aspen is now at Square One. She was part of Team Doge as well, and there's other examples to go alongside this. I believe Elivo was a Team Doge, I might be wrong, and now he's back in Europe. So all these players are spread out, apart from Hybrid. It's gone quiet. And I have a feeling that maybe Hybrid knows he's on the Spitfire, and he just has to keep hush. So it could be that. And I also know from an interview that Nuki did with a company in the UK that they had quite a few British tryouts. Now, it could be a different number of players. The Numlocked is currently in Tier 2, so it might have been Numlocked. There's Hybrid. There's Chucky Milk, who's a British player as well. There's obviously, there's ones that are currently in the Overwatch League. There's Boombox. So Boombox is another possibility, but I think it's maybe unlikely now, especially as the Spitfire want to go down a development roster sort of way. So it will be interesting to see what they do. But that's my thoughts on London at the moment. In the next week or so, we're going to start seeing things happen with the Spitfire. And it will be sink or swim. It will be, I think, a British Hurricane roster has a lot of potential. They are gauntlet winners. They lost narrowly to American Tornado in the Atlantic Showdown finals. So I think it's a roster with a lot of potential. I think it's a roster that, at its very best, could be middle of the league. But I don't think it's a roster that necessarily deserves to be fighting right down with the Vancouvers. But again, I think it depends what these extra parts are. And Blase isn't the best start, I'm not going to lie, unless these tryouts really have been phenomenal. And he's a different player from what we've seen before in the league. So, those are my thoughts on London Spitfire right now. Over the next week, we will be seeing more as these announcements come out from Nuki and the Spitfire's Twitter accounts and other social medias. We'll be keeping up to them as soon as possible, obviously, as they come out. It is not too much. There's not too much to come out now. London, with being the big ones lagging behind. There's a few teams that may add a few more, but who knows. And then we have announcements to cover later down the line when it comes to people picking regions and where they're going to play and things like that, which will be very interesting. And then power rankings and things like that, and then previews of the season. But we are talking a good couple of months away before that happens. So, for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.